Long before the Channel Tunnel, England and France were joined at the hip. Let's explore the geological birth and significant historical events that have shaped this iconic waterway. Let's dive into the story of the English Channel. This isn't just any waterway, it's a gateway to history. Imagine this. 10,000 years ago, Britain was actually connected to Europe by land. But as the Ice Age ended, the sea levels rose, flooding the land and creating the channel. This event not only changed Britain's geography, but its entire history by isolating it from the mainland. Over the centuries, this channel has been a bridge for so many people, bringing with them languages, traditions, and new ideas. Think about the Romans, Vikings, and Normans. They all crossed here, influencing everything from farming to our language and art. And when it comes to warfare, the channel has seen it all, from Roman and Viking invasions to centuries of conflict between England and France. And who could forget World War II? The D-Day landings here were monumental, the largest amphibious invasion in history, shaping the fate of nations. Fast forward to 1994, and we see a new chapter with the Channel Tunnel. This 31-mile marvel under the sea connects Britain and France, overcoming huge engineering challenges to revolutionize travel and trade. It's now a symbol of how we can work together across borders. The English Channel has been through natural disasters, migrations, and epic battles. Today, it's still this vital link between cultures, showing us that water doesn't just divide, it connects us in profound ways. The current name, English Channel, dates back to the 18th century. Before then, the English mostly referred to the waterway as a narrow sea. However, there was no fixed name for the English Channel in either French or English. The current name may have been derived from the channel's designation as Engelse Canal in Dutch sea maps. The English Channel was also known by several other names, including British Sea, British Channel, Oceanus Britannicus by Ptolemy, and Canalite Angli, English Channel by the Italians. The French refer to the channel as La Manche because of its sleeve-like shape. The channel is an arm of the Atlantic Ocean that separates southern England from northern France. It is about 350 statute miles long and varies in width from 150 miles at its widest to 21 miles in the Strait of Dover. The image shows the Strait of Dover viewed from France, looking towards England. The white cliffs of Dover on the English coast are visible from France on a clear day. The English Channel is the busiest shipping lane in the world, with thousands of vessels passing through it daily. This narrow stretch of water between England and France serves as a crucial maritime route for global trade and transportation. Following the First World War, Herd's Deep, shown with blue arrows on the diagram, was used by the British government as a dumping ground for both chemical and conventional munitions. Following the Second World War, it was used to dump military equipment, munitions, and weaponry left behind by the ousted German invaders of the Channel Islands. Routine dumping of British munitions carried on until 1974. Between 1946 and 1973, the area was also used for the dumping of low and intermediate level radioactive wastes. 28,500 barrels of waste, including plutonium, which has a half-life of 24,100 years, were disposed of into the deep during this period. The geological event that created the English Channel. It all started 200 to 400,000 years ago during the most recent ice ages. Over the last 450,000 years, the Earth has experienced multiple glacial and interglacial periods driven by natural climate cycles. Glacial periods characterized by extensive ice coverage and lower or colder global temperatures as shown on the diagram, were interrupted by warmer interglacial phases, during which ice sheets retreated and sea levels rose, shaping the planet's landscapes and ecosystems. About 200,000 years ago, during the end of a warmer interglacial period, was the time that Homo sapiens first left the African continent. Over the last 542 million years, also known as the span of the Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic eras, are when life started to expand on Earth. During this extensive time period, multiple ice ages occurred, during which global temperatures dropped and ice sheets expanded across continents. These periods of extensive glaciation were interspersed with warmer intervals, significantly influencing climate patterns, sea levels, and the evolution of life on Earth. The glacial periods experienced during the last 542 million years on Earth are shown in purple. We are currently in a glacial period, and the global temperatures currently are lower or as low as they have been in the last 542 million years. The Weald-Artois Ridge was a nature's own wall, a massive land ridge that stood tall, blocking the Atlantic Ocean. It acted as a real barrier, shaping the landscape and keeping the ocean at bay up until 200 to 400,000 years ago. The Weald-Artois Ridge once acted as a natural dam, creating a vast glacial lake during the Ice Age. Eventually, the pressure from glacial floodwaters, or possibly an earthquake, caused the ridge to break, unleashing a catastrophic flood. This event played a key role in shaping the geography between Britain and mainland Europe. Imagine an ancient natural dam, the Weald-Artois Ridge, holding back a vast glacial lake. When the waters finally broke through, they didn't just trickle, they thundered down as massive waterfalls, carving the landscape in a dramatic display of nature's power. This image brings to life that breathtaking moment of transformation. Here is a more technical diagram of the massive lake being held back by the Weald-Artois Ridge prior to its breakage. Here are two pictures, one of the Strait of Dover on the British side and the chalk cliffs on the French side at Pas-de-Calais. The breach between the two was where the Weald-Artois Ridge existed. Shown in the picture is the reconstruction of the Weald-Artois Ridge between Dover and Calais prior to the breach. The height of the ridge prior to the breach was between 80 to 100 feet, or 25 to 30 meters. Oceanographic and seismic data show the catastrophic results of the English Channel breach. Channel floor shows massive scouring by breach of the Weald-Artois Ridge. Had it not been for seismic exploration for oil, we would never have known this. An artist's representation of how channel megafloods may have looked. Floodwaters are shown carving out the white cliffs of Dover near the breach in the English Channel. The white cliffs of Dover rise majestically from the English coastline, their brilliant chalk faces gleaming against the deep blue of the sea. Mirroring this spectacle across the Channel, the French cliffs of Etretat, France stand just as proudly, creating a breathtaking natural gateway between the two countries. Beachy Head, located near Eastbourne in East Sussex, England, is renowned for its striking white chalk cliffs, which rise approximately 530 feet, 162 meters above sea level, making them the highest chalk sea cliffs in Britain. The cliffs were formed during the late Cretaceous epoch, between 66 and 100 million years ago, when the area was submerged under the sea. Over time, natural erosion has sculpted the dramatic landscape visible today. So what effect did this English Channel breach have on hominin migration into Britain? Hominins are defined as a group that includes only humans and their direct ancestors, such as Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, Homo erectus, etc. We will briefly look at the three main species, Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, and Homo sapiens, that left Africa and show where their fossils have been found. Unlike the others, Homo neanderthalensis evolved in Europe. Homo erectus was the first known human species to leave Africa, starting their journey around 1.8 million years ago. Fossils found in Dmanisi, Georgia, provide some of the earliest evidence of this migration. As they spread further, Homo erectus reached Southeast Asia by about 1.6 million years ago, as seen in discoveries from Java, Indonesia. Interestingly, recent discoveries suggest that early human relatives may have left Africa even earlier than we thought. Stone tools found at Shangcheng, China, date back about 2.1 million years, pushing the timeline of hominin migrations even further back. Together, these findings show that our ancient ancestors began exploring Eurasia more than 2 million years ago, much earlier than previously believed. Homo heidelbergensis is considered to have originated from Homo erectus in Africa, with early expansions of hominins out of Africa starting approximately 2 million years ago. Homo heidelbergensis evolved from African Homo erectus. Homo heidelbergensis then spread to Europe and possibly Asia. Fossil evidence of Homo heidelbergensis has been found across Africa and Europe, and possibly as far east as northern India and China. The oldest Homo heidelbergensis fossil is a jawbone discovered in 1907 in Mauer, Germany, near Heidelberg, giving the species its name. However, older fossils, potentially belonging to Homo heidelbergensis or a closely related transitional species, have been found in Africa, such as at Bodo, Ethiopia, dating back 600,000 years, and potentially even older remains in Spain and England. It is believed that Homo heidelbergensis populations in Europe evolved into Neanderthals, while those in Africa evolved into Homo sapiens. Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis, are believed to have evolved in Europe, with their origins tracing back to an earlier species of archaic humans, likely Homo heidelbergensis. The evolutionary process began around 400,000 to 600,000 years ago. Fossil evidence suggests that the earliest Neanderthal-like traits started appearing in Europe, particularly in regions like what is now Germany, France, and Spain. One key site is the Cima de los Huesos, Pit of Bones, in northern Spain, where remains dating back over 400,000 years show characteristics transitional between Homo heidelbergensis and Neanderthals. Neanderthals didn't appear in one specific spot overnight. It was a gradual evolution across Europe as populations adapted to the cold, harsh climates of the Ice Age. By about 200,000 years ago, they were fully distinct as a species, thriving across Europe and parts of Western Asia. The emergence of Homo sapiens is traced to the African continent, with paleoanthropological evidence placing our origins there approximately 300,000 years ago. Subsequent to our initial evolution, dispersal events unfolded. Early migrations saw populations venturing into the Levant, establishing a presence outside of Africa. However, the most significant expansion, the one that ultimately populated the globe, commenced roughly 70,000 to 60,000 years ago. This later dispersal saw Homo sapiens traverse Asia, Europe, and eventually, via land bridges and sea voyages, reach Australia and the Americas. These migrations were likely influenced by a complex interplay of environmental pressures and resource availability. driving our species to adapt and thrive in diverse ecosystems. The migration paths of Homo sapiens is shown on the map. So we ask again, so what effect did this English Channel breach have on hominin migration into Britain? The English Channel, which separates southern England from northern France, came into existence around 400,000 years ago due to significant geological changes. This waterway we see today wasn't always a consistent barrier to migration or travel. During the glacial periods within the last 400,000 years, when global temperatures were much colder, sea levels dropped dramatically. These changes caused the English Channel to dry up partially or entirely, creating a land bridge between what is now Great Britain and mainland Europe. During the glacial periods when the sea level dropped, hominins such as boxgrove man, Homo heidelbergensis, would have been able to migrate into Great Britain. Boxgrove man is a significant find in British paleoanthropology. Evidence suggests he lived around 500,000 years ago, making him one of the earliest known human inhabitants of Britain. The discovered tibia and teeth indicate a robust individual, likely belonging to the Homo heidelbergensis species. And the site reveals evidence of sophisticated butchery techniques and tool use. Conversely, the English Channel functioned as a major water barrier during interglacial periods or high sea level periods as shown above. Homo sapiens, our own species, emerged during the last 200,000 years, a period that included two major ice ages. These cold phases, with their fluctuating climates and shifting environments, significantly influence human evolution. Our ancestors adapted to these changing conditions, developing advanced tools, complex social structures, and diverse survival strategies. This adaptability and innovation played a crucial role in the success and spread of Homo sapiens across the globe. The Red Lady of Paviland is dated as 33,000 years old. She is the oldest human, Homo sapiens, in Great Britain. Her remains were found in Wales. This migration also happened during a glacial low sea level period where the English Channel area would have been above sea level. In the last 20,000 years, sea levels have experienced dramatic changes, fluctuating by approximately plus or minus 400 feet. This period, which followed the last ice age, saw significant glacial melting and corresponding rises in sea levels. These changes occurred at a relatively swift rate, driven by climatic shifts and other environmental factors. As a result, ancient coastlines and ecosystems underwent substantial transformations, shaping the present-day geographical landscape. The map shows the areas in brown that were above sea level during the last ice age and are now below sea level. An interesting aside, besides the remains of Boxgrove man just discussed, Boxgrove Priory near Chichester, West Sussex, is the resting place for the first U.S. casualty of World War II. The first U.S. casualty of World War II was William Meade Lindsley Billy Fisk III, age 29. He was stationed at Tangmere, a Battle of Britain airfield just 2 miles from Boxgrove. Fisk was serving in the Royal Air Force. He was an Olympic champion bobsled driver. He also started the development of the Aspen Ski Resort. Here is a map showing the location of Boxgrove and Tangmere with the surrounding famous locations along the English Channel: Southampton, Portsmouth, Chichester, Bognor Regis, and Brighton. Here are some pictures of the beaches on the English Channel. Let's fast forward to the last 20,000 years, which coincides with the end of the last ice age. 20,000 years ago, Great Britain was covered by ice sheets in the north, but portions of southern England and Ireland were ice-free. During the last ice age, sea levels were much lower due to vast ice sheets locking up water, exposing a land bridge known as Doggerland. This allowed animals like mammoths, reindeer, and wild horses to roam freely between Britain and mainland Europe. Early Homo sapiens, along with Neanderthals, also took advantage of this connection, migrating into Britain as early as 40,000 years ago. However, during the last glacial maximum, 26,000 to 18,000 years ago, extreme cold forced both humans and animals to retreat south. As the Ice Age ended and temperatures warmed, ice sheets melted, and animals like red deer and aurochs migrated back into Britain, followed by humans around 15,000 years ago. But as the glaciers melted, sea levels rose, gradually flooding Doggerland. By about 6,500 years ago, Britain was completely cut off from mainland Europe, isolating its people and wildlife. This transformation shaped the prehistoric movement of species and set the stage for Britain's unique evolutionary path. This is a close-up map of the area of southern England. The English Channel was a river system and not an impediment to migration in the last ice age, since the area was above sea level. This is an artist's rendition of mammal migration and Homo sapiens inhabiting the area called Doggerland that is now the shallow North Sea. Doggerland was once the home to Stone Age Homo sapiens. Fishermen off the coast of the Dogger Bank have pulled up mammoth bones in their nets. Bone and antler arrowheads recovered from the North Sea off the Dutch coast pay witness to a way of life now long submerged. Off the Norfolk coast lies a fascinating relic of the Bronze Age known as Seahenge, a timber circle dating back to approximately 2049 BCE. Its discovery has deepened our understanding of the ceremonial and ritual practices of early societies. Submerged beneath the sands for millennia, it stands as a testament to the ingenuity and spiritual life of ancient communities, offering rare insights into their connection with the natural world. Meanwhile, in the heart of modern London, the discovery of mammoth bones in Chelsea provides a remarkable glimpse into the Ice Age landscape that once encompassed the region. Tens of thousands of years ago, these majestic creatures roamed an environment far removed from the urban expanse we know today. Such findings help scientists reconstruct the prehistoric climate and ecosystems, underscoring the profound transformations the area has undergone over time. Eventually, the rising sea level due to the melting ice sheet inundated Doggerland. There was a catastrophic geological event that affected Homo sapiens living in Doggerland after the last ice age ended. Have you ever looked into the Storegga slide? It was one of the largest submarine landslides in recorded geological history, occurring off the coast of Norway. The event, which took place around 8,000 years ago, displaced an estimated 3,500 cubic kilometers of sediment from the continental shelf, resulting in a massive tsunami that affected vast regions of the North Atlantic. The scale of this collapse was extraordinary, with evidence suggesting that it reshaped coastal environments and had profound impacts on early human settlements. It's a fascinating case of how geological processes can drive dramatic environmental change. The resulting tsunami waves likely reached heights of over 20 meters, in some areas inundating parts of what is now Scotland, and even contributing to the submergence of Doggerland, the land bridge that once connected Britain to mainland Europe. Events like this highlight the dynamic nature of Earth's systems, reminding us that even seemingly stable regions can undergo catastrophic shifts over geological timescales. Had it not been for seismic exploration for oil, we would never have known this. This is a close-up seismic view of the huge portion of the continental shelf that broke off and that created the massive Storegga slide and tsunami off the coast of Norway 8,500 to 8,000 years ago. This video is a simulation of the effects of the Storegga slide and tsunami off the coast of Norway 8,500 to 8,000 years ago. Notice its disastrous effects on Homo sapiens living on the Doggerland area at the time. Let's look at the role of the English Channel as a historical defense of the island nation. These are only a handful of famous British historical events involving the English Channel as a protective barrier: the Roman invasion, the Norman Viking invasion, the Spanish Armada, Napoleonic Wars, World War I, and World War II. Pictured here is the first Roman invasion of 55 BC. 55 BC saw the first of two consecutive Roman invasions from Gaul under the overall command of Gaius Julius Caesar. The second Roman invasion of Britain, 43 to 84 AD, was led by General Aulus Plautius under Emperor Claudius's rule. The Roman forces likely departed from Boulogne and landed at Richborough on Kent's east coast, chosen for its large natural harbor. What makes this even more fascinating? Archaeological evidence confirms Roman military activity in the area at just the right time, marking this as a pivotal moment in Britain's history as it became part of the Roman Empire. Pictured here is Harry Payne painting of the Roman fleet landing on the coast of Britain for the Emperor Claudius's invasion of Britain. Then came the Norman invasion. In 911, the Franks gave the Vikings northern France. The surrendered area was given the name Normandy, based on the French word Norman, meaning Northman. Let me introduce you to William, Duke of Normandy, who would soon earn the famous title William the Conqueror. He crossed the English Channel from France, bringing along 7,000 soldiers for the journey. At the Battle of Hastings, William's army went head-to-head with the Saxon King Harold's forces and came out victorious. Sadly for Harold, he lost both the battle and his life that day. The Battle of Hastings, it's easily the most legendary clash in English history. Pictured here is the Battle of Hastings battleground outlined in white, the Abbey and the monument to the Battle of Hastings. After William's triumphant victory over England, his brother commissioned an awe-inspiring wall hanging to immortalize the event. This stunning 70-meter-long and half-meter-high embroidery vividly brings to life the dramatic tale of King Harold and Duke William, capturing the epic clash that changed English history. In 1588, a Spanish fleet of 130 ships set sail from A Coruña. It was led by the Duke of Medina Sidonia under the command of King Philip II of Spain. The mission's goal was to escort an army from the Spanish Netherlands to invade England. The strategic aim was to overthrow Queen Elizabeth I and the Protestant establishment in England. This would have also put an end to English interference in the Spanish Netherlands and countered the harm caused by English and Dutch privateering. This picture shows the major battles fought by the Spanish Armada along the English coast. Off the coast of Gravelines, France, Spain's so-called Invincible Armada was defeated by an English naval force under the command of Lord Charles Howard and Sir Francis Drake. Sir Francis Drake, Vice Admiral, was an English sea captain, privateer, navigator, slaver, and politician of the Elizabethan era. Elizabeth I of England awarded Drake a knighthood in 1581. He was second in command of the English fleet against the Spanish Armada in 1588. After 8 hours of furious fighting, a change in wind direction prompted the Spanish to break off from the battle and retreat toward the North Sea. Its hopes of invasion crushed, the remnants of the Spanish Armada began a long and difficult journey back to Spain. The reasons for the Spanish Armada retreat are a combination of poor tactics, robust English resistance, and dismal weather, ultimately doomed it to failure. By the time Philip's invincible armada finally limped back to Spain later that autumn, at least a third of its ships were lost and some 15,000 sailors had been killed. Napoleon had big plans to invade England. He wanted to land a huge army on British soil and finally take down his biggest rival. In the early 1800s, he gathered the Armée d'Angleterre, Army of England, along the French coast, backed by a fleet meant to take control of the English Channel. The whole plan hinged on outmaneuvering the Royal Navy, but Britain's dominance at sea made crossing the Channel a real challenge. The invasion kept getting delayed, especially as Napoleon got caught up in wars across Europe, fighting Austria and Russia. By 1805, with Britain still ruling the seas and Napoleon shifting focus to another war, the invasion idea was scrapped. That same year, Britain's huge win at the Battle of Trafalgar sealed the deal. Napoleon's invasion dreams were officially over, and Britain's naval supremacy was locked in for years to come. The Battle of Trafalgar, 1805, was Napoleon's last hope of controlling the seas and invading Britain. But Admiral Horatio Nelson had other plans. Instead of fighting traditionally, Nelson charged straight at the enemy, breaking their formation and throwing them into chaos. His risky move paid off. Britain was winning. But in the heat of battle, a French sniper spotted Nelson on HMS Victory and shot him. As he was carried below deck, he kept asking, "How goes the battle?" When told the enemy was defeated, Nelson smiled and whispered his final words, "Now I'm satisfied. Thank God I have done my duty." Britain's victory crushed Napoleon's invasion dreams forever. Today, Nelson is still honored at Trafalgar Square in London. During World War I, Germany faced an impossible challenge. Crossing the English Channel, the Royal Navy's dominance and Britain's formidable defenses made a direct invasion unrealistic. Instead, Germany turned to U-boats, disrupting British supply lines with submarine warfare. But Britain countered with the Dover Barrage, an extensive network of mines, nets, and naval patrols that kept the channel secure. Despite their efforts, Germany never came close to crossing. The channel remained an unbreakable shield, ensuring Britain's safety throughout the war. Imagine a world where Nazi Germany actually launched an all-out invasion of England in 1940. That was the plan with Operation Sea Lion, Hitler's grand scheme for a cross-channel attack, set to be the biggest amphibious assault in history at that point. The idea was to send waves of German troops across the English Channel, overwhelm British defenses, and take control of the island. It was a bold and aggressive move, one that, if successful, could have changed the entire course of World War II. But it never happened. Why? Because of the Battle of Britain. The Nazis needed air superiority to make the invasion possible, but the Royal Air Force, RAF, had other plans. Despite relentless Luftwaffe attacks, the RAF stood its ground, shooting down enough German planes to force Hitler to rethink the whole operation. By September 1940, the invasion was called off, marking a crucial turning point in the war. England remained free, and Germany's plans for domination took a serious hit. June 6, 1944, D-Day. This was the day the Allies launched the massive Normandy landings, kicking off Operation Overlord. It wasn't just any invasion, it was the largest seaborne assault in history. Thousands of Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy, fighting through brutal German defenses. It was a turning point in World War II, marking the beginning of the end for Nazi control in northwestern Europe. From there, the Allies pushed forward, paving the way for victory on the Western Front. For a more in-depth review of the Normandy landings and D-Day, please check my lecture titled Operation Overlord: The Role of Geologists in Planning the Normandy Landings. And now for something completely different. The Channel Tunnel, the 20th Century Reconnection. The concept of a tunnel beneath the English Channel has a surprisingly long history. The earliest known proposal came from French engineer Albert Mathieu, who, in an ambitious vision, suggested not only a tunnel, but also an artificial island midway for travelers to rest and change horses. Over the years, the idea resurfaced multiple times. Napoleon III considered it in 1856, followed by British Prime Minister William Gladstone in 1865. Later, in 1919, David Lloyd George revisited the proposal during the Paris Peace Conference, recognizing its potential geopolitical and economic significance. However, it wasn't until the late 20th century that the vision was realized. A collaborative effort between Britain and France led to the construction of the Channel Tunnel, a remarkable engineering achievement completed over 6 years, from 1988 to 1994. The Channel Tunnel built along the Chalk Marl Formation, which was easiest to bore through. The average depth of the tunnel is 160 feet, 50 meters, below the seabed, and the lowest point 250 feet, 75 meters below. The Channel Tunnel, often referred to as the Chunnel, is a remarkable feat of modern engineering that connects the United Kingdom and France via an underwater rail link beneath the English Channel. Spanning approximately 50 kilometers, 31 miles, it stands as one of the longest underwater tunnels in the world, revolutionizing travel and trade between the two nations. The project cost $6 billion, equivalent to $16 billion today, 80% more than expected. At its peak, approximately 15,000 workers were employed during the construction of the Channel Tunnel. Between 1987 and 1993, 10 workers lost their lives during the construction. In 2024, Eurostar achieved a record, carrying 19.5 million passengers, marking a 5% increase from the previous year. Since its inauguration in 1994, the Channel Tunnel has facilitated travel for over 500 million people and more than 102 million vehicles. Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed this presentation. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel by pressing the subscribe button below. We are planning to add many more presentations covering a wide variety of science, history, and other enriching subjects. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please feel free to make them, and we will do our best to respond. Again, thanks for watching, and please do subscribe.